This video is about hyperlapses and why we chose to take video instead of pictures. My name is Damien Cooper and you're watching Monkey Pixels.
We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
So if you haven't seen In the Moment, it's linked in the description below. Watch it first, then come back to this video and then watch our breakdown. So we were in Vegas for a month to shoot some music videos as well as a commercial, and we decided to take our downtime to experiment a little with hyperlapses. We usually like to include hyperlapses in some of our videos. Up until now we were going the conventional way of just taking a lot of pictures and then stitching them back together in post. But what I really like is the effect of having the ability to use a hyperlapse and then slowing the footage down in between and working a little bit with speed ramps. With pictures you can't really do that. So what we decided to do is, since we brought the Xeon crane and that works perfectly with our 1DX, which is the camera we use for a lot of our B-roll shots, and just decided to film a little bit of slow motion the way we would usually shoot hyperlapses. Just walk in a straight line towards an object, just speed it up in post. So the problem with that is that it doesn't really look like a hyperlapse. The thing about hyperlapsing and the big advantage is that you can control the shutter. You could, for example, if you're doing a hyperlapse at night, you could use a way longer shutter than you would usually do it when you're taking video. So you have this natural motion blur. So what a video is typically missing when you're just speeding up the footage in post is motion blur. So what is the advantage and disadvantages of taking video for a hyperlapse instead of taking pictures? The advantages of taking pictures is definitely first the quality, because you're taking raw pictures and a lot of them, so you can tweak them in post, you have way more resolution, and one of the biggest advantages is you can control the shutter speed, which you can't while taking video. So what you could actually do if you're shooting a hyperlapse at night, you can take a series of long time exposures and then stitch them back together, so you get this really nice feel of motion blur if you're, for example, taking pictures of moving cars or even walking pedestrians. When you're taking a video, you usually don't have that option because you usually use the 180-degree rule, which means the shutter speed should be twice as much as your frame rate. You could actually slow that down a little to get a little bit of that motion blur back, but then you run into the danger of having just blurry footage. So what we did, we just used the 180-degree rule, shot our slow motion footage the way we would regularly shoot anything. The thing is, in the end, if you just speed it up, you're missing motion blur, and that makes the footage not look as good. So I was actually looking up on YouTube how you could actually add motion blur in Final Cut back into your videos, and I was finding this one guy who does a lot of tutorials on Final Cut, and he has this plugin to download which you just overlay to your footage, and the results are really pretty good. So we used this in our hyperlapses, which gives us the advantage that if we wanted to, we can have it look somewhat like a hyperlapse that was shot on pictures, but then at any moment in the video we can slow the footage down to whatever we want and whatever frame rate we shot it in originally, to have this cool effect between like really high speed hyperlapsing and then combining it with slow motion. Another big advantage of using video instead of pictures is that while you have it on the gimbal, you're not really tied to walking in a straight line. You can pan up, you can pan down, or what we did, we actually did a 180-degree move in this video. In this way we're really flexible, so you don't really have to concentrate too much on this one point because the footage is stable anyway. If you walk around taking pictures and you're moving directions and you're losing your object out of sight or not really having it angled the same way for the entire shot, you end up with really shaky footage and it's jerking around a lot. So that way, with the camera on the gimbal, we can basically move around wherever we want and just speed it up, add the motion blur, and then get really great results. So in the end, I still think that hyperlapses, shooting raw images and stitching them back together in post, still give you the better results when it comes to quality. Just the option to have long time exposure pictures stitched together is just such a huge advantage that you will never get while shooting video. Then again, the slow motion effect comes in really handy. So what I would do is actually, if I know that I don't want to have the slow motion effect, I don't want to pan left or right, up and down, I just want to walk straight towards an object, I would always choose raw images over taking video. Unless, and that's where another big advantage of using video on the gimbal comes in play, is if time's of the essence. Because just walking in a straight line towards an object on your gimbal, hitting the record button, takes way less time than just shooting a picture, reframing your shot, taking a step forward, taking another picture, so on and so forth for like 200, 300 or even 400 pictures. Definitely the advantages of using a gimbal: you have the ability to use slow motion, you also have the ability to move way faster, plus you're not really strained to movement when it comes to just your forward angle. You can move around, you can pan, you can do 100 and 360-degree movements with ease on the gimbal. Alright, so instead of just taking the hyperlapses and call it a day, we decided to make a little video out of it. Since friends of ours were in Vegas at the time anyway, and they're professional figure skaters and they work for Cirque du Soleil, we decided to just use them and just, you know, do a spontaneous little video in Vegas.
It was an LCD screen and I was skating on it, and they were doing like programming some stuff on that thing. So that was my first off-ice show, and then sometimes I do some dancing, but not so much anymore.
Yeah, and see, I'm doing just my little ice show stuff, like flexing and...
I think that's hard enough.
Yeah, but you know, some people are expending way more.
We only had an hour, so I wish we had a little bit more time to get a little bit more angles, maybe a little bit of really macro close-up shots, but we didn't, and I'm kind of pleased with the result.
What I want you to do most is basically just walk and maybe turn sometimes, maybe even look into the camera. In this particular case it's alright, usually that's a no-go, but tonight it's fine. And walk up if you see something and just be in the moment, basically. This is what we want to do.
We just came up with a little bit of story because, you know, just having them walk around and just, you know, playing a little bit with music is not the same as you kind of try to tell a story, and this is what filmmaking is all about, telling stories. So whenever we shoot a video, we kind of want to at least get the hint of a little bit of a story. So the story here was obviously be different and live in the moment, and with all these lights in Vegas, just do whatever you want. So we only had an hour to shoot and it wasn't really scripted, so we just walked around the strip looking for cool locations. I had them troll around a little, and I mean, they were both naturals. They were just, you know, fun people. They were smiling a lot, they were doing their own crazy stuff, so that was really easy to work with. I would love to have a little bit more time to get a little bit more angles in, like a macro shot or, you know, more wide angles, but we didn't have that. As for the camera, I just used the Canon C200 with the 24mm at 1.4 and the 50mm 1.2. These were the only two lenses we used, and I think for that particular day I didn't even bring the macro shot, which ended up not being the best idea, but anyway, we made do with what we had, and done is better than perfect. I kinda like the way the video turned out in the end, although we didn't really have that much footage. The only thing that kind of bugged me, and after uploading the video that you have already seen, I hope, if not, link is in the description below, which was a challenge, was the color grading. Because in Vegas there's so many LED lights, there's so many huge screens, and these alter the images and the color a lot every second. So once there's a pink commercial on the screen, everything in Vegas is pink, and 2 seconds later there's a blue commercial on the screen and everything is blue. So that makes for really difficult color grading, and then it looks like I kind of just cut off the adjustment layer or something, because the colors really changed a lot. But that was what we were giving with, and I'm still kind of pleased to how it turned out, so I'm totally okay with that. Another thing we used in this video, instead of our other videos, we tried to make the music ourselves. Instead of just downloading an MP3 off the internet and just slap it on the video, we wanted to be able to control the levels of intensity the music had at any given moment, because the video is really building up to this one point where it says conquer, travel,
Explore. Conquer.
but after this, it's really slowing down to the minimum again, where the conclusion of you have to live in the moment comes.
And live in the moment.
And with just a standard song from the internet, it's really hard to find that exact moment where it peaks and then goes down. I mean, you can always try to cut it in and out, but most of the time it doesn't really work that way. So we decided to make the music ourselves, and I'm really pleased with the result because we were able to really peak at the moment where I wanted to, but then really quickly come down to a minimum level to get the conclusion of the video. So as for the general workflow of this video, the video was all about the hyperlapses. So we shot the hyperlapses first, then took our friends onto the strip and just started shooting with the camera handheld, not a lot of gear, and just trying to see what kind of vibe I was getting from them. And they were really loose, they were really having fun, so I decided to direct them a little bit in the way of being a little bit different, a little bit quirky, and it turned out great because they were actually doing exactly what I wanted them to do. Like I said, unfortunately we only had an hour, but it turned out great anyway. So after we shot all the footage, I decided to script a little voiceover that matches the shots that I already had and kind of gave the thing a little bit of a storyline. So once I had the voiceover done, we matched the shots towards the voiceovers, so we cut everything together, and the last part was actually the sound design as well as the music. So this way we could actually compose our own music, peak it to where we wanted it to peak, and then slow down in the end for the conclusion of to be living in the moment. And although the video is only a minute long, I was actually kind of happy with the results, and I hope you guys liked it too. So as for the future of the video, I really hope you liked both our videos, the in the moment video and the conclusion about the hyperlapses and the review of this video. This channel is going to be all about filmmaking. There's going to be a decent amount of reviews as well as tutorials, but just commercial projects that we break down afterwards, show you a little bit of behind the scenes or some making ofs. This could range from music videos to commercials to short films. We actually filmed 2 short films in Vegas, which is going to be seen here on this channel next week. And I really hope you liked it. If you did, please give it a like. If you really liked it, please subscribe to our channel for future videos. And why not just share it with your friends while you're at it. So this is Monkey Pixels. Thanks a lot for watching and see you next time.